It's well known that split mechanical keyboards are expensive. I've tried several of them: the Moonlander, the Kinesis Advantage 360 Pro, the Voyager, and the Glove 80. But I asked in a poll about 3 months ago which keyboard I should try next, with the Corn coming out as the clear winner. So if you were hoping I would pick the Corn, then I'm sorry to disappoint you because I asked for other suggestions in the comments, and one of you mentioned a keyboard I had never heard of. And I'm a sucker for the underdog, so without further ado, allow me to introduce the Kali 42, an open source DIY split mechanical keyboard introduced by YouTuber Dwactor, assuming that's how you pronounce it, who I believe goes by the name Kyle. And thank you, Eric Lindell3777, for the suggestion. And I most likely will get the Corn eventually, but this one just kind of stuck out to me. But why this keyboard? First, I really like the story behind it. You can go check out the video on Dwactor's YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in the description of this video. But another big reason was the DIY open source nature of the Kali 42. That must mean it's an affordable option, right? Well, maybe not so fast. While it's certainly not as expensive as a pre-built keyboard, I wouldn't exactly call it cheap. If you're used to spending like 30 bucks on a flimsy piece of garbage from Amazon or Walmart, then yeah, you'll be disappointed in the price. But this got me to thinking about why pre-built keyboards are so expensive in the first place. One of the top comments I see on my keyboard videos say things along the lines of these keyboards being way too expensive. These keyboards being ones like the Glove 80 or the Voyager, which I have right here, and I still use both of these keyboards regularly. And while I'm not here to dispute that they are expensive, in my opinion, you get what you pay for, and the price is actually pretty fair. But back to the Kali 42. It was oddly satisfying hunting down the different components for this thing, and once it was assembled and working, the sense of achievement felt pretty good. But even better was the feeling of elation that everything actually worked. In total, I spent about 115 US dollars to get the bare minimum components for a working Kali 42. That would include something like this with just the keys. And yes, please ignore that there are different key switches on here. That's totally beside the point. But the keys, the microcontroller, the PCB, and the little audio jack right here. However, a good chunk of that cost was in shipping, especially the PCBs, which I ordered from JLC PCB. The actual cost of 5 PCBs, which is the minimum amount you can order, was only about $9, but the shipping was about $20. Talk about unfair pricing. But obviously that $115 price tag will change depending on where you live, and I'm sure better prices could be found if hunting for good deals or waiting for a good sale. So what about the cost of a keyboard kit? As far as I'm aware, no one is selling Kali 42 keyboard kits, but there's a couple websites that sell DIY kits for more popular boards. Take, for example, keybmaker.com, and let's say I actually decided to get a Corn keyboard. Well, this kit starts at $80, a whole $35 less than I spent on parts for the Kali 42. So it's not exactly cheap, but still a far cry from $400 like something for the Glove 80. But this is just for the base configuration. Obviously, I'm going to want wireless. Underglow is clearly a yes. I like my RGBs, so sue me. And duh, of course, I need key switches, keycaps, and I'm not going to pass up on the OLEDs. And as a sufferer of RSI, the tenting kit is a must. And now that we're all customized to my liking, we're looking at $295. But the cost doesn't just stop there. Remember, the $295 is the cost of the kit, but you still have to put this thing together yourself. So let's head to Amazon and pick up a soldering iron, solder, some flux, a brass sponge, a solder sucker for when you need to salvage screwed up solder joints. Also, make sure to get a decent soldering tip because the ones that come with your soldering iron are going to suck for small electronic components. And you'll need a soldering mat to protect your work surface. And you can't put a price on health, so make sure to pick up one of these fans with the carbon pellets to suck away the solder fumes and keep your lungs healthy. And seriously, if you do a lot of soldering, you gotta pick up a pair of these glasses. And I'm actually not even kidding about these glasses. I'm I am an amateur when it comes to soldering, but I've been looking for pretty much any excuse to show this off. But this is probably my favorite project I have ever done. It's a fully programmable 8-bit computer. There's another YouTuber named Ben Eater who has an amazing series on how to build one of these, but that's a totally different story. But it was built on breadboards initially until I decided to transfer it to these solderable breadboards for something a little more permanent. And there was a lot of hand wiring and a lot of soldering by hand, a lot of these small joints. And I gotta say, the tips on these glasses and getting a decent soldering iron tip are legit. These things saved my eyeballs, and the soldering tip saved my sanity. But anyways, moving on, I might just totally cut that part out, but whatever. So yeah, after that shopping spree, you're out at least another $100 to $120. Or you could pay an extra $105 for KeyBmaker to build the keyboard for you. But that aside, the final price of $399 is $34 more than the Voyager and the exact same price as the Glove 80. This may come as a shock to some, but it turns out you can't hire skilled workers for free, and this actually increases the cost of the keyboard. Who would have thought? But moving along, in my video on the Voyager, I talk about how well this keyboard is built. Out of all 4 pre-built split mechanical keyboards that I have, which I guess isn't that many, but 4 is more than most of you, I bet. But the Voyager feels the best to type on, at least for me. And I guess I need to put a disclaimer there that by best, I mean, I just like how it feels the most. The Glove 80 and the Kinesis Advantage 360 are more comfortable to type on, but anyway, yeah. So the Moonlander is also $365 US, but the Glove 80 and the Kinesis Advantage 360 are more expensive at $400 and $449 respectively. However, they also have concave keywells, which is much harder to manufacture than flat keyboards. And for some, the insane comfort of having a concave keywell can literally be a career saver, something I can personally attest to. So the extra cost of the keyboard is well worth the investment if you're trying to prioritize hand health or already suffering from RSI. But when it comes to ZSA, who makes the Moonlander and Voyager and some other popular keyboards, not only do you get a well-built keyboard, but you also get the Oryx configurator software, which I've spoken about a few times on my channel before. It's still the best keyboard configurator I've tried, though to be honest, I have the Kinesis Advantage 360 Pro and got shoehorned into manually editing my keyboard layout through code, an absolute terrible experience. And then there's the Glove 80's keyboard configurator, which, while it's still a huge improvement over my experience with the Advantage 360 Pro, it's geared more towards power users and lacks the polished user experience you get from the Oryx configurator software. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Digma Defy, which I haven't tried yet, although based on appearance, seems to have a nice configurator. But speaking of keyboards that I'd like to try, I'd love to get my hands on the upcoming Naya Create, which starts at an eye-watering $500. But I want at least 3 of the modules that they come with so I can have a trackpad built into my keyboard and a tune dial for my video editing. And what I would have given to have the float module during the countless hours I spent in Fusion 360 modeling the case I designed for the Kali 42. And after adding it up, this keyboard would cost $896 US. I honestly have never wanted to try a keyboard this badly, but at the same time, I'm throwing up a little in my mouth just thinking about the price. And oh yeah, I designed this case from scratch. Did I mention that? And have I mentioned how awesome? Of course, I haven't mentioned this, but this Bamboo Lab A1 printer right here behind me is freaking awesome. Although it does have a recall on it, and I'm afraid that every time I use it, I might burn my house down. But yeah, okay, not gonna get sidetracked on that. But recall aside, I have been blown away by this printer. And if anyone is interested, I will publish the model for the keyboard case on Thingiverse and leave a link in the description below. But if you're curious about any of the pre-built keyboards I've mentioned and would like to see a 4-way comparison, you can check out my video where I do just that somewhere on the screen. And yeah, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.